Imagine getting your paycheck and it's a stack of cash so big you need a wheelbarrow to carry it. This might sound like a scene from a comedy movie, but for the people of Zimbabwe during the hyperinflation period, it was a harsh reality. The value of their currency plummeted so drastically that what used to be a manageable amount of money turned into an overwhelming pile of nearly worthless paper. Sounds crazy, right? But that's what life was like in Zimbabwe during their hyperinflation. The economy was in such turmoil that prices for basic goods skyrocketed daily. People had to carry bags, boxes, and yes, even wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy everyday items. The sheer volume of money needed for simple transactions was mind-boggling. People literally needed wheelbarrows, sometimes even two, just to carry enough money for groceries. Imagine the frustration and exhaustion of having to transport such a massive amount of cash, only to find that it might not be enough by the time you reach the market. The prices of goods were so unstable that what you could afford in the morning might be out of reach by the afternoon. Imagine trying to hail a taxi with a wheelbarrow full of cash. The absurdity of the situation was a daily struggle for many. Taxi drivers often refused to accept such large amounts of cash because it was practically worthless by the time they could use it. The logistical nightmare of handling so much money added to the already immense stress of living through hyperinflation. Now you might be thinking, hey, more money, more problems, right? But in this case, it wasn't just a saying. The more money people had, the more difficult their lives became. The constant need to carry and count vast amounts of cash was both physically and mentally draining. It was a never-ending cycle of anxiety and frustration. But here's the catch. That mountain of cash in your wheelbarrow might not even be enough to buy a loaf of bread tomorrow. The value of the Zimbabwean dollar was so unstable that people couldn't plan for the future. Savings were wiped out overnight and the cost of living became unpredictable. It was a stark reminder of how fragile an economy can be when inflation spirals out of control. That's the thing about hyperinflation. Money loses its value so fast it's like watching your ice cream melt in the summer sun. One moment you think you have enough, and the next, it's gone. The people of Zimbabwe had to adapt to this harsh reality, finding ways to survive in an economy where their hard-earned money was worth less and less each day. It was a sobering lesson in the importance of economic stability. So, what exactly is hyperinflation? It's not just your usual prices going up a little bit every year. It's like someone hit the fast-forward button on inflation. Think of it like this. Prices are sprinting a marathon and your money is that snail trying to keep up. Spoiler alert, the snail doesn't win. Hyperinflation throws the entire economy out of whack. People lose trust in their money because it becomes practically worthless. Imagine working hard all month only to find out your salary can barely buy a cup of coffee. That's the harsh reality of hyperinflation. Zimbabwe, a beautiful country in southern Africa, went through a devastating period of hyperinflation in the 2000s. How bad was it? Well, at one point the inflation rate reached an astronomical 79,600,000,000% per month. That's not a typo, folks. We're talking billions with a B. People were carrying around stacks of trillion-dollar bills just to buy basic necessities. Imagine having a $100 trillion bill in your wallet. It sounds impressive, but it probably wouldn't even buy you a decent meal or a loaf of bread. Section 4, the money wallpaper, a true story. One of the most striking images from Zimbabwe's hyperinflation is people using banknotes as wallpaper. Yes, you heard that right. Money was so worthless that it was cheaper to use it to decorate your house than to actually buy anything with it. Think about that for a second. The very thing we work so hard for, the thing that's supposed to represent value and security, being used to cover cracks in the wall. It's a powerful symbol of how hyperinflation can turn a country's economy upside down. Section 5. The government's roll printing money, fueling the fire. So how does a country get to this point? It's a question that has puzzled economists and policymakers for decades. The answer isn't simple, and it involves a complex interplay of various factors. Well, it's complicated. But one major factor is often government policies. These policies can range from fiscal decisions to monetary strategies, and they can have far-reaching consequences. When governments start printing too much money to solve their problems, it's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. The intention might be to stimulate the economy, but the result can be disastrous. Printing more money might seem like an easy solution in the short term, but it actually devalues the currency in the long run. This devaluation leads to inflation, where the prices of goods and services rise, making everyday life more expensive for everyone. It's like adding more water to your orange juice. You might have more liquid, but it's going to taste a whole lot worse. The same principle applies to money. Increasing the supply without increasing the value leads to a weaker currency. This weakened currency can lead to a loss of confidence among the public and investors, further exacerbating the economic crisis. It's a vicious cycle that's hard to break once it starts. Section 6. The human cost from millionaires to paupers. The saddest part of hyperinflation is the human cost. It's not just about numbers on a page or economic theories, it's about real people, real families, and real lives being torn apart. Imagine going from a comfortable life, maybe even being a millionaire on paper, with a sense of security and a future that looks bright, to suddenly struggling to feed your family. The transition is not just financial, but deeply emotional and psychological. That's the reality that millions of people in Zimbabwe and other countries hit by hyperinflation have faced. Savings that took a lifetime to accumulate were wiped out in a matter of months. Pensions that were supposed to provide security in old age became worthless pieces of paper. People who had worked hard their entire lives saw their dreams crumble before their eyes. The sense of betrayal and hopelessness is unimaginable. It's a stark reminder that behind the economic jargon and statistics, there are real people whose lives are turned upside down. These are not just abstract concepts, but human stories of loss and resilience. Families are emotionally affected, and personal stories of financial ruin abound. The impact is felt across generations, altering the course of lives and futures. It's a human tragedy that underscores the fragility of economic stability. Section 7. Lessons from hyperinflation, a global warning. Hyperinflation stories like Zimbabwe's are a cautionary tale for governments around the world. They remind us that sound economic policies are crucial for a stable and prosperous society. Printing money might seem like a quick fix, but it can have devastating consequences for everyone. The next time you hear about inflation or see prices going up, remember the stories of Zimbabwe and the people who lived through the nightmare of hyperinflation. It's a reminder that economic stability is something we should never take for granted.